Back in late 2022, I was living in Sacramento and working the night shift at a warehouse near the airport. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Since I didn't own a car, I usually took the bus. But that particular Friday night, my shift ended after the last bus had already come and gone, so I called an Uber, something I only did when I absolutely had to. It was about 2:40 a.m. when I booked it. The app said the driver's name was Elias, and he was arriving in a black Toyota Corolla. Pretty standard stuff. The profile pic showed a clean-shaven guy, probably in his mid-30s. 5 minutes later, I was standing in the employee parking lot, waiting under a flickering streetlight with my hoodie pulled up. The air smelled like oil and wet concrete, and everything felt off. Just one of those nights. Then the Corolla pulled up. The windows were tinted, but the plate matched, so I walked over and opened the back door. "Elias?" I asked. The man turned his head, slowly. He had deep-set eyes, almost like he hadn't slept in days. His beard was thicker than in the photo, and his hoodie was pulled up tight, but he nodded. "Yeah, get in." Something about his voice made me hesitate. It was dry, almost mechanical, but I told myself I was just tired, and I got in. As we pulled out of the lot, I tried to make small talk. "Long night?" He didn't respond. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and for a moment, I wasn't even sure he was blinking. The silence dragged on. I watched the city lights blur past, and after maybe 10 minutes, I noticed something strange. The GPS on the app, the little blue line that normally tracks the route, it wasn't moving. The car was driving, but the app still said we were near the warehouse. I refreshed it. Nothing changed. "Hey, I think the GPS is stuck," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Mind if I double-check the route?" "No need," he said. "I know where you live." I froze. I hadn't told him my address. He didn't ask. He hadn't even glanced at the phone mount since I got in. "Sorry, what?" He didn't answer. He just kept driving. I sat back, heart starting to thump against my ribs. I knew the rough direction home, and we weren't going the right way. We'd passed the I-5 entrance, the fastest route downtown, and were now heading through a stretch of road that was mostly industrial lots and closed businesses. I said louder this time, "I think you missed the turn." Again, no response. I opened the Uber app to call support, but the ride wasn't showing anymore. It just said, "No active trip." Now I was panicking. "Hey, pull over," I said. "I'm serious." Still nothing, just that same blank stare, focused on the road. His hands didn't even twitch on the wheel. So I did the only thing I could think of. I faked a phone call. "Yeah, I'm in the Uber now," I said loudly, hoping he'd hear. "Yeah, I see the building. I'm almost there. You're outside, right?" I waited. Still nothing. But a second later, and I swear this is what chilled me most, he smiled. Not a normal smile. It didn't touch his eyes. It was small, tight-lipped, knowing. Then he said, "No one's outside, not at this hour." My mouth went dry. We were now in a completely unfamiliar part of town. No houses, no street lights, just rows of abandoned-looking buildings and graffiti-covered fences. I reached for the door handle, but the child locks were on. I could feel my pulse in my neck, fast and hot. I said again, "Let me out." And that's when he finally turned to me and said something I'll never forget. "I've seen you before," he said. "You took the bus 3 nights ago. Red hoodie, same spot." That was true. I had been wearing my red hoodie that night. The only reason I wasn't wearing it now was because it was in the wash. "How do you—" He cut me off. "You live in that basement apartment off 12th with the yellow porch light, right?" My blood went cold. That was my place. No one outside my job and friends knew that, and none of that info was in the app. "I'm calling the police," I said, raising my phone. But before I could unlock it, he slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop in front of a chain-link fence. Beyond it was a field, pitch black. He turned in his seat slowly, his face now lit by the faint glow of the dash lights. "You can get out," he said. I didn't move. I said, "You can get out." I didn't wait for a second invitation. I scrambled for the door, reached through the window gap, and popped the outside handle. I nearly fell out of the car. As I hit the pavement, I heard him say one last thing before speeding off. "You should be more careful who you get in the car with." Then he was gone, tail lights vanishing into the dark. I stood there, in the middle of nowhere, phone in hand, shaking. I called a friend who lived about a mile away. She came and picked me up, thank God. I reported the incident to Uber the next day. They said there was no record of the ride. No one named Elias had an active profile in the area. Nothing matched the plate number. I still don't know who that man was. I never saw him again, but for weeks after that I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my windows, listening for that voice. And to this day, I don't take rides late at night, especially not alone. Because now I know some people out there, they're not driving for the app. This happened in early 2023 when I was doing late-night Uber shifts in San Antonio. I'm a 35-year-old single dad, and I usually drove evenings after putting my kid to bed. It was a way to make extra cash without pulling a second job. That night it was close to 1 a.m. when I got a ping near a rundown strip of motels and liquor stores. Not the greatest area, but not the worst either. The name on the request said Harper, and the pickup spot was listed as parking lot behind the gas station. Sketchy, but I'd had worse. I pulled in slowly, headlights sweeping over cracked pavement and scattered trash. I didn't see anyone at first. Then, out of the shadows, a figure walked toward the car. A woman, maybe late 20s, short, dark hair, wearing a black coat that looked too big for her. She approached the passenger window and tapped. I rolled it down halfway. "You Harper?" I asked. She nodded but didn't say anything. "Okay, you can hop in." She got into the back seat and immediately slouched low, like she was trying not to be seen. The destination was about 30 minutes out of town, a residential area I'd never been to, out past the main suburbs. I confirmed the address, and she just muttered, "Yeah, that's it." From the moment we started driving, the air in the car felt wrong. Not tense exactly, more like empty, like all the sound had been sucked out. She didn't speak, didn't look at her phone, just stared down at her knees. I tried to make light conversation. "You from around here?" No answer. "Long night?" Nothing. So I gave up and just focused on the road. We were maybe 10 minutes in when I checked the rearview mirror and noticed something that gave me pause. She wasn't alone. There was a duffel bag in her lap. Not weird in itself, but it looked heavy, like way too heavy for a purse or clothes. Her arms were wrapped around it tightly, like she was hiding it. Still, it wasn't my business, until she whispered something. "They know what I did." I glanced at the mirror again. "Sorry?" She didn't repeat it. I figured she was drunk, maybe high. People say weird stuff during night rides. But then she leaned forward suddenly, not enough to touch the seat, but close enough for me to hear her breathing. "They're going to find me." Now I was unsettled. "Who's going to find you?" I asked, half joking. She didn't answer. A few more minutes passed. We were now in the outskirts, where the roads get darker and the houses are far apart. I could see trees lining both sides of the road, no streetlights. Then she spoke again. "I didn't mean to. I told him to stop, but he wouldn't stop." She was shaking now. I could hear it in her voice. "What happened?" I asked carefully. She looked up at me in the mirror for the first time. Her eyes were rimmed red, but dry, cold. They always say they'll stop, but they don't. Now I was freaked out. I didn't know if she was talking about a boyfriend or something else entirely. I considered ending the ride early and calling the police, but I didn't want to escalate things if she was unstable. I decided to just get her to the drop-off as quickly as possible. We were maybe 5 minutes out when she leaned back and went completely still. No movement, no blinking. Just sitting there, duffel bag in her lap, staring straight ahead. I pulled up to the address, a small one-story house with all the lights off. It looked abandoned. The grass was knee-high, mail piled up on the porch, no car in the driveway. "You sure this is the right place?" I asked. She didn't respond. I looked back. Her seat was empty. The duffel bag was still there, resting upright, exactly where her hands had been. I blinked, spun around in my seat. Nothing, no door opening, no sound, just silence. I opened the door, got out and checked the back seat. Empty, completely. There was no one there, no signs anyone had been there. Not even a seatbelt pulled out of place. Just the bag. And now I was shaking. I reached forward with one hand and gently unzipped it, just a couple inches, enough to peek inside. What I saw made me drop it immediately and stumble backward. It wasn't clothes, it wasn't money. It was a man's wallet, a phone, a bloodied shirt, a rusted hammer. I kicked the bag out of the car and jumped back in, locked the doors and drove straight to the nearest police station. I didn't touch the bag again, just gave them the exact location and let them retrieve it. The officer who took my statement asked me to describe the passenger. When I did, he looked at his partner, then back at me. "You said her name was Harper?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "We got a missing persons case on a Harper Reed. Went missing about 3 weeks ago. Last seen leaving a party near that same gas station." I didn't know what to say. They asked me to come in the next day to give a formal statement. I did. They never confirmed what was in the bag, but they did tell me one thing. That house? Harper's childhood home. Her parents moved out 2 years ago. No one had lived there since. I still drive for Uber occasionally, but only during the day. And if I ever get a request for Harper or any pickup from behind that gas station, I don't accept it. Because whoever or whatever got in my car that night wasn't supposed to be there anymore. I'm 19 and live alone with my small dog in a quiet apartment complex about 10 miles outside of a mid-sized town in Tennessee. It's a peaceful area, trees, open fields, not too many neighbors. The kind of place where nothing exciting ever happens. I liked it that way. This story happened last fall, and it completely changed how I feel about being alone. It was a Friday night, and I'd spent most of the day deep cleaning the apartment. My boyfriend, we're long distance, was coming to visit the next day, so I was doing the usual routine, mopping floors, scrubbing dishes, making everything smell like lavender and lemon. I was tired by the end of it and didn't feel like messing up my freshly cleaned kitchen, so I ordered Uber Eats. Nothing fancy, just a burger, fries, and a soda from a diner in town. I requested contactless delivery, as I always do. I don't like opening the door at night, especially alone. The app said my food was on its way. Driver's name was Cameron, in a white Honda Fit. I remember that specifically because my best friend in high school had the same car. A few minutes later, I got the usual notification, "Your order has been delivered." I smiled, stretched, and walked to the door. But when I opened it, there was nothing there. No bag, no receipt, no food. I checked the other units along the hall. Maybe it had been left at the wrong door. Nothing. A little annoyed, I opened the app to message the driver. Maybe he took a photo. Before I could type anything, there was a knock. Not on my door, on my neighbor's. I peeked through the peephole. It was my next-door neighbor, Caleb. He's a few years older than me. Quiet guy, works late. He was holding my food bag. When I opened the door, he looked serious. "Hey," he said. "I didn't mean to be weird, but I saw the delivery guy through my blinds. He wasn't just dropping food off. He was looking through your windows." "What?" I said, stunned. "Yeah. He walked past your door. I thought he left, but then I saw him crouched down by your side window. I didn't want to yell and make it worse, so I just opened my door and asked him if he needed help. He dropped the bag and left." I thanked him, genuinely shaken. I tried to brush it off. Told myself maybe the guy was confused or trying to find the right unit. But Caleb didn't seem like the type to exaggerate, and his tone, it lingered in my mind. I ate my food and finished my movie. Around midnight, I locked all the windows and doors, double-checked the latch on the back sliding door, and went to bed. Sometime around 3 a.m., my dog started growling. He's a 5-pound Yorkie, tiny, harmless, but when he growls, it's not for no reason. He was at the window, fur bristled, low rumble in his throat. I shushed him, figured maybe he saw a raccoon. But then he barked, loud and sharp, and ran to the back door. And that's when I heard it. A sound at the window, not a knock, not tapping, scraping. Like something, or someone, was trying to lift the window open. I froze. My bedroom window doesn't lock properly. It never has. I'd meant to get it fixed, but hadn't yet. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911, whispered into the phone that someone was trying to get into my apartment. The operator told me to move into another room and stay quiet. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a steak knife. I was crying now, trying to stay quiet. My heart was pounding. I peeked out through the kitchen window toward the street. That same white Honda Fit was parked across the road, in the open field next to the complex. Headlights off, no one inside, which meant he was somewhere outside my apartment. Within a few minutes, the red and blue lights appeared. The cruiser pulled up slowly. 2 officers got out. They didn't find anyone immediately, but they did find footprints in the soft mud behind my unit, directly under the bedroom window. One officer said he was back here for a while. The other walked over to the car, the white Honda, still sitting in the field, but the driver was gone. No one around. I told them everything, about the delivery, about Caleb seeing him earlier. They took it seriously, but they couldn't do much without catching the guy in the act. The officers told me to stay somewhere else for the night just in case. Caleb, bless him, offered his couch. I declined stupidly, thinking the police showing up had scared the guy off. They left, and for the next hour I sat on the couch, knife still in my hand, trying to stay awake. Around 4:20 a.m., just as I was nodding off, someone pounded on the front door. "Police, open up!" I rushed over, terrified again, and saw it really was the same female officer from earlier. She looked almost angry. "We stayed nearby just in case. He came back. We caught him walking up to your front door with gloves on and something in his hand. He was arrested. I never saw him again. I found out later that the name Cameron, the one in the app, wasn't real. He wasn't even an actual Uber Eats driver. He'd hacked a local driver's account or bought access to it online. The real Cameron had already reported it missing earlier that week. So whoever brought me that food wasn't just delivering it. He was casing me. I don't order food delivery anymore, not unless someone else is home, and I fixed that damn window the very next day. Sometimes I still think about what would have happened if Caleb hadn't intervened, or if I had opened the door at the knock, expecting my food. Because whoever that man was, he wasn't trying to feed me. I was 26 when this happened. I had flown to Washington, D.C. to visit my fiancée, we'll call her Sarah, who had just finished her basic training. We hadn't seen each other in months, and I planned the trip so we could have some time together before her family came into town for her graduation. We were staying in a modest hotel near the city center and spent the week exploring all the tourist spots. Lincoln Memorial, National Mall, Arlington. I'd never been to DC before, so everything felt like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. That particular day we were exhausted. We'd spent hours walking in the sun, and all I could think about was laying down in the hotel bed with the air conditioner on full blast. Sarah opened her Uber app while I sat on a bench in the shade. It was late afternoon, still bright out, and the street wasn't too crowded. After about 10 minutes, a grey Dodge minivan pulled up near the curb, a little ahead of us. The driver didn't roll the window down or call out, but Sarah looked at her phone and said, "That's him." She walked up and opened the back door. "Uber for Sarah?" The guy nodded. That's it, just a nod. No smile, no words. She got in. I followed her without thinking. I can't explain why, but the second I sat down and shut the door, I felt something was wrong. Subtle, but undeniable. The kind of feeling that makes your stomach turn before your brain even understands why. The driver didn't confirm our destination, didn't greet us, just pulled away from the curb and started driving. Sarah and I were both quiet for a moment. Then I noticed her tapping on her phone. She glanced at me with a worried expression and slowly turned the screen toward me. It showed our actual Uber driver's profile, with a picture, name and vehicle. It wasn't this man. It wasn't this car, and we had just gotten into a stranger's vehicle. I froze. Sarah's screen said our Uber had arrived 2 minutes ago and was waiting across the street, in a totally different car. We were in someone else's vehicle, and this person hadn't said a word. I didn't want to panic, didn't want to tip him off that we knew, but I could feel my throat tightening. I leaned forward gently and said, "Hey man, actually, can you just let us out here? We've changed our plans." He didn't answer, didn't even slow down, just kept driving, eyes fixed on the road. "Hey," I said again, louder, "you can pull over, we're good here." Still nothing. He didn't acknowledge us, not a glance, not a nod. I looked at Sarah. She was trying not to cry. I reached into my pocket and felt my folding knife. I carry it everywhere. It's not big, but it's sharp. My hand was shaking when I flipped the blade open. "Pull over," I said, now holding the knife where he could see it in the rearview mirror. "Right now." He saw it. His eyes flicked up just for a moment, and then he slammed on the brakes. We jolted forward in our seats. He reached for something, I couldn't see what, and I nearly lunged across the seat, heart racing. But then I heard the click of the doors unlocking. We didn't wait. Sarah flung her door open, and I followed right behind her. We ran across the sidewalk, onto a more crowded corner. I turned back just once and saw the guy staring at us through the windshield. Then he drove off, smooth and slow, like nothing had happened. We stood there in the open, both of us breathing hard, shaking. Sarah was near tears. I just kept watching the road. Eventually, our actual Uber driver messaged us again. We told him we were okay, asked if he could still come. He said he was only a block away. When he picked us up, we told him everything. He looked dead serious and said, "That's not the first time I've heard something like that this month." "What do you mean?" I asked. "There's been a guy, maybe more than one, posing as Uber drivers, waiting near tourist spots, people from out of town, not thinking twice before getting into a random car." He paused, then added, "Couple of people went missing. One girl never made it to her hotel last week." He drove us back safely and encouraged us to report what happened. We did. Went straight to the police station the next morning, gave our statements, a description of the man and the van. But nothing ever came of it. No calls, no follow-ups, just silence. And here's the thing, he didn't try to rob us. He didn't threaten us. He didn't speed off when we got in. He just drove, quietly, calmly, like he'd done it before, like he was waiting for something. I think about it sometimes. What would have happened if we hadn't realized, or if I hadn't had that knife? Would we have ended up in some dark corner of DC, just another missing couple on the news? I don't know. But I do know this. Never assume the car that pulls up is the one you ordered. Ask for the name. Check the plate. And if someone doesn't talk to you, doesn't verify who you are, don't get in. Because sometimes it's not your driver.